live. It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast, to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into episode number 34, I want to make sure to remind you guys to like and subscribe because we're moving up the follower totem pole, people. We are over 100, so make sure to smash that subscribe button. And then also hit that like button because that pushes us out into the YouTube algorithm, and YouTube shows us love if you do that. So make sure to also like this video. Also, below this video is a share button. Hit that share button, just smash it, and share it to your friends and family on any social media page so that you can spread word about the Revved Up 906 podcast, your favorite Detroit Pistons podcast. Without further ado, let's get into episode number 34. This week, we are talking about Ausar, Thompson, and Marcus Sasser. We're going to be doing a deep dive on our recently acquired draft picks, the 5th pick and the 25th pick? 23rd? 24th? 25th?
Yeah.
The 25th pick and Marcus Sasser. Let's start out with him. He is coming from, I'm drawing a blank on his college right now. Houston, that's what it was.
We have a problem.
And he's 6'2", 195. That's what's listed in my notes for some reason. He played nearly 36 games, 17 points per game, 3 assists, 43% from the field, 38% from the three-point line. A lot of people are talking about how his tendency is to put up shots from the three-point line. But 3 assists from a point guard, shooting guard player,
Yeah.
Is that any worrisome from you? What are your thoughts on that 3 assists? I wanted to hear what you had to say.
I don't think it's worrisome because if you look at the type of player he is, he's more of a 3-and-D, which is what the Pistons need. Obviously, Ausar Thompson is also more known as a 3-and-D. Marcus Sasser, a 3-and-D. And then even Toshan Oboma, our Exhibit 10 signed player, is a 3-and-D. So there's a theme going on with this year's draft and free agent signings for Weaver and company, in the sense that we need to attack the 3-and-D position just because we need three-point shooting desperately, and then we also need defense. So the 3 assists for Marcus Sasser, it doesn't bug me because there are games where, he has like 2-4 assists per game, but as long as he's affecting the box score, which he normally does frequently, he's averaging like 16, 17 points a game, so he's up there.
Right.
And then defensively, he's averaging 2 steals and almost a block a game.
Which is insane.
Yeah, for his size, that's really good. He kind of reminds me of a Marcus Smart, just a better shooter. And so just something like that and that type of player goes a long way. So I don't think the 3 assists bugs me at all.
For people that don't know, Marcus Sasser won the Jerry West Award, which is apparently the award for the best shooting guard in the country at the D1 level. And a lot of people talk about how he's a spark plug, how he just gives you an immediate boost to your offense and your defense. And the Pistons organization as a whole are very used to these spark plug-esque players. Our generation is kind of like a Brandon Jennings or a Vinnie Johnson from back in the Bad Boys era. And even Rodney Stuckey would argue to be a spark plug-esque player. So it's kind of cool because the Pistons in recent years, you could kind of say Alec Burks is that. But we haven't really had that like spark plug-esque player for the Detroit Pistons in a couple of years. That's why I'm excited with a pick like Marcus, because he's not anything like Killian Hayes. He's not anything like Brandon Knight, some of the last point guards we've drafted. And it's going to be or even Saban Lee is kind of different than Saban. But something that jumped out to me was the 6'7" wingspan at only being 6'2" in height. Dude, a freak of just body style.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, that's not normal for a guard to be that long. So the fact that he is at his height is pretty impressive. And then you also look at the accolades he's had thus far in his college career. He is NCAA All-Region this year in the tournament, a consensus All-American. This past year, he was the Player of the Year in his conference, and he's a 2-time All-AAC team member. And then he was on the AAC All-Freshman team. And this is coming off of being a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. And what he's been able to do pretty much up until now is pretty impressive. Granted, you look at the offers he had: Houston, Colorado State, Louisiana Tech, Old Dominion, SMU, and UTEP. really the only basketball schools in that mix are really SMU and Houston.
Right.
And of course, Houston was the choice because he did go there, but Houston was definitely the best opportunity for him, and he definitely excelled at it. You look at the postseason this year in the NCAA tournament, 22 points against Auburn. Like, that's pretty solid.
Yeah, Auburn was a great team this year.
Against Miami, 14 points, 5 boards, and 4 assists with a steal. Like, pretty much almost every single game he played in this year, he was averaging an assist, a steal, a rebound. But then he also was definitely scoring over double digits each night out, and that's more impressive to me.
So one of the things I wanted to talk about was, who do you think Marcus is going to complement the most on the Pistons roster? We can kind of assume he will be coming off the bench in that 9-10 man role. But, the Pistons, it seems, have made a lot of draft picks in recent years that aren't guys that need to have the ball in their hand. They can get buckets when buckets are given to them, when they're allowed to get points. And we've seen in recent years, the Pistons have a couple guys that we've gotten through free agency really take the ball handling a lot and not have ball movement. So Marcus Sasser, kind of a pass first guy that knows how to get that three ball. Who do you think he's going to complement well coming off that bench?
I think it's a little shocking to a lot of you Pistons fans out there, because as soon as we made the pick of Sasser, everybody was saying bye Killian, but let's be realistic here. Killian is not going anywhere anytime soon.
I agree.
Unless Weaver decides finally maybe it's time to make a move. I don't think you move on from Killian. He still has a very high ceiling. He's still very young. And he still has a lot of potential and room to grow still. And so by that being said, I see Killian getting the more benefit of the doubt with Marcus Sasser. I think Sasser is going to help Killian excel. And we're going to finally see the true Killian Hayes that Weaver definitely wanted to see from the get-go. And it's going to be very exciting.
During the season, we would get frustrated because Killian would be on the floor with guys like Jared Rhoden and some of these even Hamidou Diallo at times. We would get frustrated because these guys aren't helping him move the ball. I think a Marcus Sasser will complement Killian because he's going to be a ball movement guy. He's going to be a guy that wants to get everybody involved, and Killian needs those kinds of players. Being a fast point guard, needs those guys to help him out, get that ball movement rolling, because if he's the only guy pushing for the ball movement, he's going to look bad some plays because the offense is so stagnant. I think sometimes Killian just gets the blame for those things when he shouldn't. So I think Marcus Sasser will play well with Killian. I also am looking forward to seeing him having some minutes with Marvin Bagley, having them off on a pick and roll option, and seeing what they can do, because Marcus Sasser, when you watch his tape, really can play well with a Jarris Walker-esque player, and Marvin Bagley's kind of in that same category. So I'd be excited to see what the dynamic of them will be, because Marvin Bagley obviously likes to get the ball a lot. Marcus Sasser needs to work on his passing statistically, so maybe that might mix well.
Yeah, I really think outside of Bagley and Killian, I really think the second unit as a whole will benefit from Marcus Sasser, just because when you look at past point guards for us, like Corey Joseph this past year, even though he was very reliable, there were a lot of flaws to him still, because offensively, there were times where our offense was not flowing at all. Nobody was cutting. And so I'm not blaming Corey Joseph for that, but I mean, it's a team sport. When at the end of the day, it is a team sport. So I'm not blaming Corey Joseph for it, but when he was out there, our offense definitely slowed down in the sense of nobody was moving. Right. And for an offense to excel, you really need ball movement, and especially in today's NBA, because if you sit there with the ball, it's not going to be good.
The bricks will add up quick, real quick. Also, Alec Burks, we're a big Alec Burks guy, Alec Burks guys. Our offense always was really good movement when he was on the court, because he's such an offensive threat. I think if you put a guy like Marcus Sasser alongside with Alec Burks, I think Alec Burks will take so much of the attention of offensive threat-wise that defenses will move to him, and that might give Marcus Sasser, a good three-point shooter, the opportunity to start hitting that three ball. Now we just have to hope that he's able to hit that three ball from at the NBA level. We've seen guys like Isaiah Livers be an absolute three-point Barotter in Michigan and then come to the NBA and kind of struggle in that category. So time will really tell for Marcus Sasser. For me, at 25, first round pick, but it's hard to determine what your expectations should be for the 25th pick.
Yeah.
What are some of your thoughts on, okay, over an 82 game schedule, if he stays healthy the whole season, what are you to expect from a guy like Marcus Sasser?
I just see him being a plug-and-play kind of guy, somebody who can just go in immediately and excel. It doesn't have to be like he's dropping 20 points a game or having a double-double here and there. I just want him to go out there and ball, because at Houston, that's what he did. In high school, that's what he did. And so if he can just continue to do that at the NBA level, at the end of the day, I'm happy, because you can't expect too much out of a late first-round pick. So the fact that we even traded up to get him shows you how good he is, but then also how much belief Weaver and Monty Williams and everybody in the front office has in this young guy. And that's what I'm the most excited for, is just seeing what he does when he gets the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about how some fans were saying Killian Hayes is out the door because of picking up Marcus Sasser in the draft. Do you think Killian, with that pick happening, feels any pressure? Like, is there a right to be some pressure there? Or do you think, Killian's got a couple more years with the Pistons? What were your thoughts on that?
Obviously, Killian's wanting a contract extension.
Yeah.
He's wanting to stay in Detroit. And that news comes out before the draft, and then we draft a point guard. And so from my perspective, if I were Killian Hayes, maybe I'd be a little bit worried, but Sasser is undersized compared to Killian. So I really think Killian knows that they believe in him, because otherwise, realistically, based off how Killian's played thus far, there's no reason why he wouldn't have been moved already in the majority of the NBA.
Right.
But Weaver clearly has belief in him, and so I think Killian is like, I'm struggling a little bit, but I know deep down this team wants me, and so I'm fine. And realistically, I think Sasser does benefit Killian. Killian is definitely more of a two-guard than a true point guard. Even though his passing ability is off the charts, when you have a guy who can play the two at his size and still be effective in the passing game, let alone defensively, that is a very valuable asset to have. Killian Hayes does not need to be a true point guard. He doesn't need to be a starter. He can be a guy that comes off the bench and just is a plug-and-play kind of guy. And that's what I think our second unit just needs to be as a whole, is just plug-and-play. And so, realistically, I don't think Killian's worried at all, and I think we're going to be fine there.
I think Marcus Sasser, after coming off a season with so many injuries, is a good addition to the Pistons, because he'll kind of, like you said, be that plug-and-play guy that if we are dealing with injuries, he can step up at the 1 or 2. I love having those guys that are kind of positionless in today's NBA that is very positionless. So I think it's a smart move, and with that wingspan, man, that's dangerous. I think it's going to be so fun seeing him go up against guys like Tyus Jones, some of these better bench point guards, to see how he fares and defensively just hopefully be a menace. I'm so excited to see what Marcus Sasser out of Houston can do for the Detroit Pistons. Now, let's talk about the man of the hour. I'm so excited to hear what Ryan has to say about this guy, because we haven't really talked about it much in person. So I'm excited. 6'7", 190 pounds. The Pistons took with the 5th pick, Ausar Thompson, out of Overtime Elite. He averaged 16.3 points, 7.1 rebounds per game, which is pretty good. 6.1 assists per game, 2.4 steals per game, and 1.1 blocks per game. The dude is a stat sheet stuffer. He won his 2nd championship with the Reapers in the Overtime Elite League. There's only been 2 seasons of that league so far. He's won both championships. He was season MVP and finals MVP this year for that league. A lot of accolades for this guy. What are some of your first thoughts and opinions on Ausar Thompson?
He's going to be better than his brother, and he already is better than his brother. So the fact that Amon was taken before him. It's just based off of what Houston needed. It's not based off skill at all.
Yeah.
If you were going off of skill, honestly, Ausar would have been higher. He probably would have gone 4. Honestly, he could have gone 3. 2 is pushing it maybe a little bit, but I think he is right there with Brandon Miller. So realistically, if you're going off of skill and what you can do offensively and defensively, he's a good player to have. And yes, I know we were hyping up Taylor Hendricks a lot, and we were saying that the Pistons should take Taylor Hendricks. But if you recall, if you actually watched the draft, once Taylor Hendricks got picked up by the Jazz, everybody was hyping him up.
Yeah.
They were pretty much saying he's legit. His ceiling is too high, and we were not wrong with that, clearly. So, yes, we did want Taylor Hendricks, but I will take Ausar. So, with that being said, if you look at his college offers, he had Auburn, Florida, Florida Atlantic, Florida State, Howard, Iowa State, Kansas, LSU, Miami, Oklahoma State, Stetson, USC, and USF.
Wow. List goes on.
Yeah, he got recruited by everybody. Even his brother. They both consistently had offers from this exact list. The only difference was Alabama actually offered Amon a scholarship where they did not offer Ausar.
Okay.
But they still chose the pro route. And it was an interesting route to take given the fact that Overtime Elite is not very big. I would put it at the level of below D1 basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Below G League.
Yep.
But above high school.
Yep.
That's what it is, really.
And below and above D2.
Yes, above D2. It's not a bad level, but it is what it is. It's going to be a future route to take for a lot of young players in the future. These two twins have proved it, that you can have success at that level and get drafted into the NBA now, and being back-to-back top 5 picks.
That's cool.
So, with that being said, this league is probably going to become something special within the next 5 years. Not that it's there yet. It still needs time to grow, like the NBA G League Ignite needs time to grow. There's finally getting a lot of draftees, so
yeah.
The sky's the limit with that league, but with that being said, Ausar Thompson, in the playoffs, he had 21 points a game, 5.5 rebounds per game, 5-ish assists a game, 2 steals, and a block. The rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks went down from his season averages, but that's because he became a full scorer. If you look at the playoffs for Overtime Elite, when you compare the brothers at least, when they needed a guy to step up, Ausar was that guy.
Right.
And that shows you how dominant he is, because in that league, he's won every single MVP award in that league, postseason and regular season. And that shows you how much of an elite player, pun intended, he is. And he actually is better than his brother. Like, you look at the postseason play. They played the Cold Hearts back-to-back for the first 2 matchups. He had 15 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals in the first game. That's a solid game. I'm not complaining with that. Second game, he stepped up the scoring. He had 26 points, 5 boards, 8 assists, and 2 blocks.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty darn good. I'm not complaining about that at all. And then against Young Dreamers, he had 18 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, and 2 steals. Then 22 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals again. And then to finish off in the final game of the championship, 24 points, 4 rebounds, an assist, 4 steals, and 2 blocks.
Clutch play.
Like his stats show you that he actually is a 3-and-D type player, which we actually desperately needed. And the fact that he's averaged such high in the steal count and the block count total-wise, that makes me excited for our defense going forward, because that's something that we've sucked at. Let's be realistic here. We have not been good defensively. To add players like Sasser and Thompson here, I'm excited.
What's cool about the Ausar is I wanted to talk about his clutch gene. In the finals of that series we were just talking about, he made the game-winning 3 with 2.3 seconds left on the clock to clinch the championship for the Reapers. But then also, he started the playoffs 0 of 5, 0 of 15 from the three-point line, and then turned it around, and the rest of the way through the playoffs went 15 and 34. So what I see in that, looking at those statistics, is he can battle through adversity and put up points in the clutch moments, much like Cade did his rookie year. So with Ausar is you're going to get a guy that can persevere through tough times. You know, when his shot's not falling, know that he's got to wait his turn and it will eventually fall. And he's shown that in the past. So you really want to take a deep dive on those stats, because then that's kind of showing you the kind of player he's going to be over his first 82 games of being an NBA player. So the Pistons, these last couple of years, have really added these new young additions of guys that can persevere, get through these tough times. Even Killian Hayes, he's put up some of the worst 10-game sequences I've ever seen. And he still will put up a 35-point game and 8 assists, you know, every once in a while. So I love that from Killian, because it shows he can persevere. So Troy Weaver really showing that he likes those tough guys that have that mindset to keep pushing. And I think Ausar is going to be one of those guys, and you want those kind of guys on your team, in your organization, because those are the guys that are going to get that winning mentality back in the Pistons organization.
I will say he does need time to develop, especially shooting the ball. But we have some of the best developmental coaches in the NBA currently, like guys like John Beilein and others. Like we're solid. Like, look at Isaiah Stewart as an example. Comes into the league, has no three-point shot. This past season, he lit it up from three. Like, that's not normal. So the point is, we have the perfect group of coaches to help develop these young guys. And even though he doesn't have 100% three-point shot kind of ability yet, he still has a chance, because like the tape is there. He has all the components to be successful in the league. He just needs a little bit of time to develop. And honestly, I'm fine with that, because when you have Cade, when you have Jaden, when you have James Wiseman, Jalen Duren, etc., when you have all these guys around him, he doesn't need to be the main focus taking the shot at all times. When you have everybody else around him, even Bojan, for now, when you have these guys of that skill set around him, he can just be himself and do his thing. He doesn't have to, there's no pressure on him to take that shot. So that's why I'm actually more excited about it. And I even mentioned with you, even with other players that we've been talking about getting drafted and whatnot, at 5 or even at, I guess, 25 or in the second round. I mentioned that I'm fine with whoever we draft takes time to sit back and develop.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm fine with that. With this 5th pick, majority of the time, you're not going to get a Jaden Ivey every single time. You're going to get a guy that needs a little bit of development, because otherwise he would have gone first overall or even in the top 3. But he needs time to develop. He needs a three-point shot. He has it, but it's not there yet. And it's kind of like Isaiah Livers. Isaiah Livers had it, but then with too many injuries and not taking as many shots, it digresses a little bit. And he's finally starting to get into that groove again. Killian Hayes, coming into his rookie year, his three-point shot was not really there. And then this past season, it got better. But the point is, like, these guys just need time to develop. And I know we don't want to sit here in a rebuild forever, but we're not in a rebuild anymore. We're in the restore phase. And so from now on, it's more of like, we'll get guys in the draft that maybe need a little bit more development than others. But at the end of the day, 2-3 seasons from now, we're going to be one of the best teams in the East.
When talking about Ausar's stat line, we talk about how he has 8 assists, 7 assists, 6 assists. Each and every game, he's putting up numbers in the passing game. And when watching film on him, there was so often Amen and Ausar in transition, and Ausar always throwing up a lob to Amen or dumping it off to Amen at the hoop and just laying it up and making these uber athletic, and ones. And all I could imagine was Jaden Ivey and Ausar in transition, Ausar bringing up the ball quick and dumping it off to Jaden Ivey and letting Jaden go to work. This last season, in Jaden's rookie year, we saw him thrive in transition, get these wild and ones. Now you accompany that with a guy like Ausar that knows how to do and works with that dynamic so well. and has a good passing ability for being 6'7", I think that's super exciting because watch Ausar's film and watch how he plays with Amen. I think that's exactly how it's going to be with Jaden Ivey this season, and I get so fired up.
And then even if you flip-flop it a little bit, you could go Cade and Ausar.
Absolutely.
Like, the point is, though, like, Ausar is like the perfect plug-and-play guy for our system right now. I mean, obviously, personally, Taylor Hendricks would have been great, too. but Ausar he's what we need and what we needed. He's kind of like that guy that's a frequent athlete, has all the keys to be successful, and we just need to sit back and watch. And he even participated in Steph Curry's camp a while back, and Curry was sitting there at the end of the day saying, like, this dude's legit. He can play. And if you have Steph Curry, who's arguably one of the best players in NBA history, saying that, that's saying something. Like, Ausar was guarding him, and Curry's like, at times I could not shake him. And that's impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's even when Ausar was, that wasn't this past year, that was like 2 years ago now. So it shows you how good of a defender Ausar is. Now, I will say, I've seen a couple comparisons recently that I kind of don't want to believe, but a lot of people have been comparing Ausar to Stanley Johnson.
Oh.
Which I see that, I'm like, I kind of see it, but I don't want to see it.
No.
It's just, I don't want Stanley Johnson again, no offense, because I know you like Stanley Johnson.
I hate him now. I loved him when we drafted him. Oh, man, I was so fired up. But I do like that comparison in a way because the physical traits are there. That's what I love about the Thompson brothers is usually like those top 8 picks, like the skill is there, but their bodies aren't there yet. Where the Thompson brothers, like, they're NBA ready as far as built and physical traits. And that's how Stanley Johnson was. He was ready physically for the NBA. Just skill level, dude. Just was not there.
Nowhere close.
But also, Ausar's, Thompson's, like, film, because I watched a lot of Stanley Johnson film when we drafted him because he was really known for his high school highlights. But Ausar is his IQ is completely on another level than Stanley Johnson. So everybody that's heart skipped a beat when we talked about Stanley Johnson, just know that Ausar, to me, seems like the IQ's there. It's not just the highlights. He's making the right passes and making the right plays. So don't worry too much about that comparison. What's another one? Did you have another one?
No, I mean, I just saw that recently, like today even when I was scrolling on my phone, I'm like, oh, no, I'm not thinking about that.
Some of you Piston pages take it way too far.
Yeah.
You take it too far.
Way too far, honestly.
I love it.
Like, I understand bashing the Pistons a little bit, but come on, people. Not anymore.
I know.
Too much negativity now.
So for me, with the 5th pick, you were talking about how he's going to have to develop a little bit. I agree. I hope with the 5th pick we get a starter caliber player eventually for maybe mid-season All-Star break. He's 6'7". Cade Cunningham also 6'7", I believe, maybe 6'6". Jaden Ivey 6'5". What are we looking at if Ausar Thompson absolutely blows up this season, let's say, and just is having given a huge burst off the bench, playing too good to be coming off the bench? What do you see with the starting 5 situation?
So I keep mentioning this with you, but I see Ausar being the starting small forward. I see Cade at the 1, Jaden at the 2, of course, and then Ausar at the 3. You can flip-flop it either way, but James Wiseman and Jalen Duren in the paint. That's the way I see it, because honestly, that's the best 5 we have. Unless you could argue Bojan over Ausar, but even Bojan in the lineup at times definitely struggled.
Oh, yeah.
And took a lot of opportunities away from others. And so I kind of just see Bojan coming off the bench a little bit and being like a 6th, 7th man. But I see Ausar starting out of the get-go, really. And at times this season, you're going to see like guys like Brandon Miller struggle instantly. And you're going to be like, holy crap, Ausar Thompson's much better. But it's just because usually the top 3 guys struggle a little bit right away. Whereas 5 down, they don't struggle as much because their expectations aren't as high.
Right.
But you could see Brandon Miller and all these guys slipping a little bit. Even Amen is going to slip a little bit. And you're going to be like, wow, Ausar is actually that much better. But that's what I'm excited for.
So last season, I would get so frustrated with Dwayne Casey because the rotation would. I mean, we dealt with a lot of injuries, but it took a while for us to get like the rotation we wanted with Jalen Duren and James Wiseman together. We only really saw it for like 5-6 games. I am so nervous to like learn Monty Williams' rotation method because I always used to get so frustrated with Dwayne Casey. So I hope, because we spent a 5th pick on him, I hope Ausar Thompson is starting right away, or if he is off the bench, give him 25 or more minutes. These young guys need time to develop. We are at a point where we don't need to win. We're in the restore mode, right? So we don't need to win, but we need to throw these guys into the fire and see, or throw them into the water and see if they float.
Yeah.
And Ausar Thompson's one of those guys where we need him to have a lot of minutes right off the bat so we can get an idea of what he's going to be for us. And then also, these are all young guys. Ausar's 19, Jaden Ivey's probably newly 20, Cade Cunningham 22. These are all young guys that need to restore and build together. Yeah. And for them to do that, they need to play together. And Monty, we need Ausar to start. That's all I'm saying.
I will say I'm fine if he doesn't start. If we do sign Cam Johnson, if we do sign Cam Johnson, start Cam Johnson.
Right.
But I'm fine with that,
Agreed.
And that's because Monty knows him, what he plays like, and also like Cam Johnson could actually help Ausar a lot. Mm-hmm. Ausar could really, really use a Cam Johnson because Cam Johnson, coming into the league, was known more for 3-and-D. And he's definitely developed more of a three-point shot now than ever. And he's almost identical in play style to Ausar. Mm-hmm. And so I really think it would be beneficial for Ausar to come off the bench given that situation. Plus, I think that lineup of plugging Cam Johnson in at the 3 with everybody else, I think that's arguably one of the best lineups we've had in a very long time. And so, again, Ausar should start. But if a guy like Cam Johnson or others get brought in,
totally,
I'm fine if they start.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just was kind of, just going about it, assuming that he wouldn't, because I'm trying not to get my hopes up about Cam. Yeah. But I'm right there with you. I think we should go out and get Cam. When watching Ausar's film, I was trying to picture Ausar with Cade and on the court and what that would look like, and it was really difficult for me. I couldn't really imagine how it was going to work out if, there's not really many point guards and small forwards that are the same size that are kind of similar play style where they both can hit the 3 ball, they both can pass, okay defense, they play so similar. How do you kind of see that dynamic working, and do you see them running the offense through Ausar with Cade Cunningham at the helm?
I see it more as Cade's going to have the ball 24/7.
Yeah.
He's going to be the playmaker. He's going to be Magic Johnson in the offense. I know I just threw a Laker reference in there, and I hate the Lakers, but I just did because Cade is kind of like Magic Johnson.
A little bit,
He really is. And so, but I think given the offensive ability and defensive ability that Cade possesses, and his IQ is very high, I think you're going to see kind of like a motion offense in the sense that Jaden's flying all over the place, Ausar's flying all over the place, Cade's flying all over the place. And just our offense moving. Yeah. Nobody's going to be standing still. I mean, obviously.
I hope not.
If we're standing still, it's because we won the game or we're going into halftime. But
I love that.
But I don't see them holding the ball. Because you look at the speed that our lineup has right now, Ausar, given himself, is actually very fast.
Oh, yeah.
Jaden Ivey, we don't even need to say how fast he is because everyone knows he's fast.
Dude, yeah.
Cade, given his size, is actually pretty fast. Mm-hmm. He's not a freak of an athlete fast, but he does have that speed. And you even look at James Wiseman in the paint. James Wiseman in the paint has that speed.
Dude, yeah.
Jalen Duren is pretty slow. But he is a freak of an athlete. Yeah. And so, honestly, with that being said, I see our offense going more motion than not. I see more moving around than three-point shooting, more moving around than just a bunch of different schemes that you could go with. Just because I think if you draft Ausar, which we did, you have to go more motion offense than not.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great episode topic to talk about like the dynamic between Ausar and Kate Cunningham and like what that might look like, other duos that like were similar in play. I would love to do a deep dive on that and kind of figure out what it might look like this upcoming season, them two playing together. I think that dynamic's really fun. Before we wrap up today's episode, I wanted to mention just today, we record on Tuesdays, this comes out Saturday, so it'll be old news. But I wanted to talk about how the Pistons did re-up with Isaiah Livers for one more year for $1.4 million. It was something that we were a little bit in question about after Isaiah Livers pretty much struggling his first 2 years. It's been kind of rough at times, but the Pistons do decide to re-up him. I'm guessing Monty Williams was kind of a big factor in vouching for him or wanting to see more from him this upcoming season. What are some of your thoughts after the news of the Pistons re-upping Isaiah Livers?
I wasn't surprised. It was not like a pleasant surprise, but I wasn't surprised.
Yeah.
I see this as maybe a second opportunity for him, just to see what he does in a Monty Williams offense. But then also, like, you re-up a guy like that because you get 2 years on a contract. Majority of the teams making trades at the deadline are looking for a year to 2 years left on a contract.
Right.
And the fact that you're barely paying Isaiah Livers. So I will say that makes him more of a trade candidate coming up than not. And so that's what I really see it as. More of like we're giving him a second chance, giving him an opportunity to see what he does with Monty. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't do exactly what we thought he was going to do, there you go. You can move on from him like that. Because his contract is not big at all. So you can easily move on from that.
I totally liked that point, seeing how he does in a Monty Williams offense. I didn't even think of that. I think that's a great point because, Dwayne Casey, Monty Williams, yes, they have the same demeanor, but every coach has a very different approach. And I think Monty Williams is totally going to flip this team a 360. Yeah. 360, whatever. And so I think maybe Isaiah Livers can maybe be unlocked by Monty Williams' coaching ability, but time will only tell for that. I definitely think that teams are going to be just foaming at the mouth looking at how much they're paying Isaiah Livers, knowing that it's not a huge dig. And possibly, like you said, if he doesn't make it happen these first 32, 25 games, he might be looking at, being on a different roster, maybe in the G League.
And honestly, maybe even Monty turns Isaiah into a Cam Johnson-esque player.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I can actually see that. He doesn't have the size, but he could do something very similar.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, that will do it for today's episode. Episode number 34 is in the books. This week, we talked about Marcus Sasser and Ausar Thompson, our newly acquired draft picks. Make sure to leave a comment below who you think will make a bigger impact because Marcus Sasser, he's there at 25. You never know. Those guys at 25, that range can make a big impact. So let us know in the comments below if you're happy with those picks. And if you have any questions or concerns, leave a comment below and we'll gladly get back to you and maybe talk about it in an episode. We will see you guys in the next episode. Peace.